Primeros 30 segundos. Críticos.
Cain wasn't punished. He was protected. God marked the first murderer in history to keep him alive, not as mercy, as something worse, immortality. Everyone who saw Cain for the rest of his life would know exactly what he did. The mark made it impossible to hide, impossible to start over, impossible to pretend. And God said, "Touch this man, and you answer to me." This is the story of the mark, not the punishment you think it is. Let's talk about what Cain actually did. He wasn't evil, he wasn't twisted. He was a farmer. He worked the ground, he grew things. He brought his harvest to God as an offering. But God rejected it. Why? The text doesn't say. God accepted his brother Abel's offering, a lamb from the flock, but turned away from Cain's harvest. And Cain fell apart. Genesis says, Cain was very angry and his face fell. Think about that. His face fell. The physical manifestation of shame and rejection. He did everything right. He worked, he brought an offering, he showed devotion. And it wasn't enough. So he killed his brother. Not in a rage, not in the moment. The text suggests premeditation. Cain spoke to his brother Abel, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. Spoke to him first, got him alone, then struck. It was a choice. And that's what breaks Cain, not the act itself, but the weight of choosing it. Now here's where it gets brutal. God doesn't execute Cain, doesn't imprison him, doesn't demand an eye for an eye. Instead, God does something far worse. God marks him. Now you are cursed from the earth. You will be a fugitive and a wanderer. But here's the part people miss. When Cain begs for mercy, my punishment is too great to bear, God doesn't revoke it. Instead, God doubles it. The Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should kill him. A mark. For protection. Not as a brand of shame, as a mark of protection. Everyone who sees Cain will see the mark, and they'll know, this man killed his brother. This man is cursed by God himself. And they'll let him live anyway, because the mark says, touch this man, and you answer to God. Cain becomes untouchable, alive but separated, wandering but protected, cursed but shielded. It's the most brutal mercy in the Bible. Think about what that means. For the rest of his life, Cain can't escape what he did. He can't move to another town and start fresh. He can't hide his sin. He can't pretend. Every person he meets will see the mark and know. That's the man who killed his brother. But they also can't kill him, can't avenge themselves, can't do to Cain what Cain did to Abel. He's protected by the very thing that marks him. His curse is his salvation.
Here's what haunts me about this story. Cain doesn't become a villain because he was born evil. He becomes a murderer because his offering was rejected. Because he felt unseen, unworthy, unaccepted. And that pain, that existential pain of not being enough, that's what drove him to kill his brother. Not jealousy alone, rejection. The existential terror of being invisible, of doing everything right and still not mattering. And then, the mark. The thing that makes him visible. The thing he wanted to escape becomes the thing that defines him forever. He becomes the most visible person in the world. Not because of success or beauty or virtue, but because of what he did. This is a pattern we see repeated everywhere. People who experience profound rejection don't always respond with humility. Sometimes they respond with destruction. If I can't be accepted, I'll be remembered. If I can't be loved, I'll be feared. If I can't belong, I'll be marked. And often, the marking does what rejection couldn't. It makes them real, visible, undeniable. The mark becomes their identity. But here's the deeper question. Was Cain marked as punishment or as transformation? Because marking someone changes them. It makes them see themselves differently. Cain goes from the man whose offering was rejected to the man who bears the mark of God. His curse becomes his most distinctive feature. He's not anonymous anymore. He's not invisible. He's the first marked person in Scripture, the first one set apart by God Himself. Is that punishment or calling? Think about people in your own life, the ones with visible marks, visible pain, visible brokenness that they can't hide. Are they cursed? Or are they the ones who've actually confronted their darkness and chosen to keep living? Are they marked for judgment or marked for something else entirely? Because here's what Cain teaches us. Sometimes the mark isn't about shame. Sometimes it's about authenticity. Sometimes the people we see as cursed are actually the ones who've earned the right to exist publicly, without pretense. They've done the terrible thing. They've faced judgment. They've accepted the mark. And now they walk through the world not as frauds, but as the people they actually are. Visible, undeniable, marked. Cain's story doesn't end well. He wanders. He founds a civilization, but that civilization becomes known for violence and corruption. The mark didn't redeem him, didn't make him good. It just made him real. And maybe that's all the mark ever does. It doesn't fix you, doesn't wash away what you did. It just makes it impossible to pretend. Here's the question Cain leaves us with. What would you do if you couldn't hide? If everything you'd done wrong was written on your forehead for the world to see? Would you keep walking? Or would you give up? Because Cain kept walking. He wandered, he built, he lived. Not because he was forgiven, not because the mark went away, but because sometimes being marked is the only way to become human, to stop pretending, to accept what you've done, to integrate your darkness into your identity, and then to keep moving forward anyway. Maybe that's what redemption actually looks like. Not erasure, not forgetting, not going back to who you were, but carrying the mark and choosing to be more than it. Cain left the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Marked, alone, wandering, but alive. And somehow, that became its own kind of blessing. Análisis de la reescritura. Cambios en primeros 30 segundos. Antes, versión original. Picture this. You've just done something unforgivable. Empieza con inmersión de segunda persona. Tarda 90 segundos en revelar que es sobre Caín. Tarda 2 minutos en llegar a la tesis después. Optimizado. Cain wasn't punished. He was protected. Choque inmediato. 0 a 3 segundos. Contrarian hook. Drama. 3 a 15 segundos. God marked the first murderer to keep him alive. Promesa. 15 a 30 segundos. This is the story of the mark, not the punishment you think. Mejoras clave. Primeras 5 palabras igual a tesis contrarian. No metacomentario. This story is. Nombre concreto. Cain, en primer segundo. Promesa explícita en 30 segundos. Ritmo estimado. 155 doble voz pero mudara versus 120 doble voz pero mudera original. Proyección de retención. Versión original. Drop esperado 30% a los 20 segundos. Versión optimizada. Drop esperado 15% a los 20 segundos. Mejora. Más 15% más audiencia retenida igual a más 50% más views totales.